Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 75. Yeah, it's something though today. Basically, hit big numbers for my reviews. I mean, I hit 50 for Fire Force. Now I hit 75 for Super Sentai. This one, like the last video where I discussed 5 episodes, this was discussing only 4 this time. There is one key episode. Well, actually, there's kind of 2 key episodes mostly, and 2 standalone and have really nothing to do with the main series. Starting off with 31. It's like the first episode just after they had 2 new people who joined the team. And it starts off with Ginga Rhino. I'm trying to remember his name. Where it's not him. It's whereas Jirichi is with Joe and Megumin. They're on patrol, and then he gets hit by a energy beam from a monster known as the Brain Vega. This is just after that having Grave Professor Bias give all their scores. And Keppa's got the highest score, 253. Barderza has got 217. Asura's got 155. Bucci's got 59. And his partner has got 81. So they use their Vega Monster, that's referred to this thing as, a Vega Brain, where it impregnates Josuke. No, I'm not kidding about that. That is seriously the plot of the episode. A male pregnancy. Okay, whatever. And you might think, is this a bad episode? Oh yes, this is probably by far out of the, so far, 34 episodes I've watched for Liveman, this is the worst one I've ever seen. The plot is so stupid. Like, oh, you have a male pregnancy, and it's treated seriously, but this is terrible. Why the heck would the Sentai come up with this other nonsense? So they go to this expert to remove this damn thing, but they don't say what the heck this expert is because, oh, the monster who helped create this particular baby. And then Josuke, sort of in the way, gives birth, though the energy comes out of his belly. After it becomes a joke, oh yeah, we have a guy who looks like he's pregnant running around Tokyo for reasons that he doesn't bother to explain. And we have Baby Vega, who doesn't do much of anything. He just chases around Josuke at the sort of the way he rejects because he sort of the way calls him mommy, which I thought this was kind of weird. I mean, if you were going to do that, why not? My guess is the reason why they do the Megumin is because, and this is my theory, I don't think the Japanese writers want to basically be associating with if Megumin got pregnant, it'd be equivalent to basically if she got raped. Yes, I'm sure by far that when this episode aired, it probably got a lot of negative flack. If anybody watched the episode, this episode was pretty bad. And eventually the baby Vega is destroyed by Brain Vega, and eventually the thing is destroyed by Josuke. Yeah, it's not the good of an episode. 32 is the first key episode of this batch, where Dr. Kip wants to become more mechanized, where he becomes like an upgrade for his Beauty Beast form. So basically, we have one of his past show up. Yes, by the way, her name is Mai, and here's the thing: Josuke knows her. Not Josuke, Yusuke knows her, and here's the thing: only appears in every episode. Excuse me, it was after this very episode. Now appears again, but it's a very similar episode to, I think it was the first episode for the Dr. Urso saga when they got rid of that character. But Dr. Kep doesn't go away. He actually still stays at the very end from what I've read. Yeah, so he's here for the long haul. So, the woman Mai was a woman that saved him when he was in an accident 4 years prior to the series. And that was 2 years prior to the events of the pilot episode. Because when they came back, when they had the Liveman in present day, it was roughly 2 years after that incident. So apparently Kemp did not know who the heck this woman was. Like, oh, this woman saved me? And apparently created this everlasting flower, which when he sees it again himself, he basically destroys it. Oh yeah, and by the way, they mentioned his blood type's negative. I think it's like negative B negative double O. They say it's like a very rare blood type where like 1 in 1,000,000 has it. Okay, now in the case of this is by far okay. Type blood type like that, that's probably true. But I've never heard of a blood type like this. The other blood types I've heard have been A, B, or AB. Never this, whatever the name for this episode, I've never heard of this blood type before. I've heard A positive, A negative, B negative, B positive, AB positive, AB negative. Those blood types I've heard of. But the blood type mentioned here, never heard of this before. Might be a blood type made for the show. I don't know. There might be rare blood types out. Heck, in the series One Piece, Luffy's blood type is type F. You ever heard of a blood type that's type F? Wow, that's quite something. So, Kemp, who basically is the first time since the pilot episode referred to by his real name, Kenji. Yeah, this is something interesting though. He's always referred to as Kemp throughout the entire series. He's never referred to by his real name. And it takes to episode 32 to finally refer to him by his real name. Not this code name that he assumed by joining Great Master Bias. So, eventually it's found thanks to his Gore Monster. Yes, a Gore Monster that sucks up blood. And its first victims are children, who are going number one. And like normal little kids, they drop their pants. Yes, I have seen this. It is a very awkward scene where you see a tube going near a little boy's rear end. No, not in the middle, on one of the cheeks. It is by far one. It's something that if anybody from a modern perspective would say, yeah, that's not good. This show in a series is where the general audience is kids. That's not good. Yes, and like, ow, teacher, it hurts because it got poked in the rear end by a tube. Oh my gosh, it's by far one of the most baffling things. Maybe a key episode, at least the story is good. Just that visual of that tube and the child's rear end looks so silly, but also very wrong. Yes, so after, of course, after revealing the whole backstory involved in this woman, and and then of course Kemp decides after the monster's defeated, decide, oh yeah, I'm not gonna use blood anymore. I'm not gonna use blood for they get transformed, and this plot thread needed this plot thread for about 3 episodes. It's not picked up again until episode 35, which I'll get to that in the very next episode of the series. Episode 33. It's as weird as episode 31, but not as bad as 31. This is probably second worst. What's the story for this one? Oh, let's see. We have Tosoya, where he befriends a little boy. He says all his friends have left, and he needs, he would be friends with a robot, so he creates like a robot suit, plays it for a bit. Apparently, Mista, it's her turn to basically get involved with this. Yes, seriously. Mendoza, yes. So, yeah, and then they create this action robot. When they had this robot fight, which I thought was quite an interesting idea. But eventually, of course, they said to keep the suit when they feed the monster very end. Though the kid itself, as far as I can tell, does appear again after this. The suit itself is never mentioned again. It's almost like, oh, let's just forget about this particular nonsense. 34 is an interesting one, and this focuses on Joe. I'm like, okay, interesting. When you look at the 4 episodes so far, these Rangers have these focus episodes. First, you have Josuke, then Yosuke, then Joe. Now, finally, it's not Joe. It's Tessa, and then now it's basically Joe's turn. Yep, where he's basically like using Colin's face as like a mirror, which I thought would be so hilarious. And he's dressed like a greaser from the 70s. And it's like, oh, he finds a little girl's shoe, which then we kind of head to 15 years in the future. By the way, they mentioned the episode, the date is October 2nd, 1988. And the future is October 2nd, 2003. And you're probably thinking, okay, what Super Sentai aired in 2003? Aba Ranger, a.k.a. Dino Thunder. Well, the Sentai was turned Dino Thunder. Yeah, that made his debut that for a year. Yep. Yeah, so... And we see Ashura basically having this, like, machine where... sort of a time travel machine. Well, apparently the goal for Ashura was, the task was simply this. Go to the future, bring back a strong weapon. What strong weapon? Don't know. And he arrives like 15 years in the future. Oh, here's something I should point out, though. Yeah, for the year 2003, what did technology evolve by then? Having a wall phone, like, it looks something out of the 1980s? Yes. They did not predict the technology right. The only film that I can think of that actually predict the future almost correctly was Back to the Future Part 2. Because that's the only time they've actually predicted the future to be almost exact. The only things they'll have is hover cars and hoverboards. So, this woman's name is Mari, where she rides on a motorcycle through a tunnel, which turns into something out of Tron. Yes, seriously, looks like something out of Tron. And then she arrives in the year of 1988. Where then she runs into the guy who she thinks might be the guy who she admired when she was 3 years old. I don't remember what I did with 3 years old. So, she hangs out with him for a while, gives him he buys her like a sunflower, and then apparently is upset with the fact not only Ashura broke the machine, even though it actually worked, he apparently really wanted to kill this woman for some reason. It's never explained in the episode. Like, oh, he just creates a monster completely at random, which I think this was the first monster ever created for the series. Yeah, this was the first one he ever created. Which, that's interesting. I mean, he never actually... Well... It's known as Galbraid. Yeah, this was his very first monster he ever created. Yeah, and by the way, how many did he create? He only created 3. Next to the pop up to episode 42, toward the end of this run. And the final one didn't pop up until the last episode. Yeah, it's weird though. It's like, okay, guy killed this woman in 2003 for reasons. We also have Dr. Marisa, where she asked the woman she runs it, like, what's the world like in 2003? And she does not give her an answer. By the way, they never show a scene later on where you have Dr. Marisa, where she is telling Great Passage Bias that she didn't tell him anything at all, which isn't true. She was curious, though. Do Volk control the world in 2003? Given the peaceful environment that is. It never got the answer for that because we don't really see much of the year 2003. So, and then we have Joe a lot of the time protecting Miku. Yeah, she's protecting her a lot of the time. By the way, one of several characters who's named Miku in the series? Yes. There's one from Go Kaiger. Yep. Yeah, one of several. There is, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8. Yes, there are 8. And this is only the 6th one they've ever had in the series. And the thing with these characters are, a lot of them are one-shot characters. Or just actors. Let's input what they are. Eventually, of course, the woman said Back to the Future. The tunnel is basically closed when it was closed in the future. And she sees time has pretty much gone back normal, despite the fact that her shoe was burnt. It was returned to her, no problem. Excuse me. I think that this I thought was really weird of an episode. It has this really weird ending. It doesn't really comment on anything. It's a good thing, basically, of a hint of something we might explore later on with bias. But aside from that, it's an interesting episode, but it left a lot of stuff to be a lot of questions when you finish watching the episode. Yes, Kemp is sent out because why not? He doesn't do anything the whole episode. He just basically watches everything. Yeah, one time he's actually sent out, and he does nothing the entire episode. No, seriously, he does virtually nothing this entire episode. Yep. And Dr. Marisa, well, aside from fire off her gun once, she doesn't really do anything at all. It's almost like the villains of the episode were pretty useless. Aside from frequently attacking the Liveman, they didn't really do a lot of anything at all to affect the plot of this episode. Yeah. But aside from that, these were pretty, well, 3 out of 4 were pretty good episodes. The only episode I don't think was that very good, I would say, actually scratch it, only 2 of the episodes were actually pretty good. I'd say 32 and 34 are pretty, I like these episodes, 32 and 34, but 31 and 33, oh my gosh, 31 is terrible, and I think 33 is the second worst one of this entire run so far. That's just my opinion. If anybody's ever watched Liveman, feel free to leave comments below what you thought was the worst episode of this whole run. In my opinion, it was episode 31. And second was 33. Okay, so that's episode review. Next one is going to be Fire Force. Discussing once again 5 chapters. Okay, next video. Bye.